So 10 things that you must ask a divorce attorney. If you're looking at a divorce, considering divorce, and need to get some information, what things should you talk to a divorce lawyer about? Well, here's 10 things that you don't want to miss when you're talking to an attorney. 10 things that you must ask. So one question that we get a lot that makes sense is, do I need an attorney for this? Do I need to hire an attorney just to do a divorce case? Do I need one to file for divorce? So, I think one way to answer this is, do you need an attorney to file a personal injury case? Do you need an attorney to handle a probate estate? Do you want an attorney for, you probably do. Now there's exceptions, and we're certainly open to telling people if there's something that they're meeting with us about that we think they could try to handle on their own, we present that as an option. We say we could handle it, you could handle it. There's some things where that's certainly possible, but a divorce case involving children, real estate, retirement accounts, and those sorts of things, the normal amount of stuff, you want an attorney. The money you're going to spend on an attorney is way less than the money you'll be out of, the money you'll lose, the problems you'll have when you're trying to figure this all out on your own. A divorce case is a lawsuit, just like a personal injury case is a lawsuit, or a probate estate is a lawsuit, or all these other things. You need somebody that knows how to do this stuff. They know the court rules, they know the statutes, they know the laws, they know the county, they know how things work with the courts and what to expect at the court hearings. So it certainly is helpful. Coming from an attorney, do you need an attorney? Well, not always true. There's things that people can handle on their own. We'll get, meet with someone that needs to file a motion to reduce child support. Well, there's forms you can fill out and file to reduce child support. You might need help with understanding how child support works or how it's calculated or whatever. But the act of doing all that is certainly something that you might be able to do on your own. You certainly could. You'd probably want to get advice. And that's another thing to keep in mind with this question of, do I need a lawyer to handle this? You certainly would want to meet with one and see what they have to say about it and get a sense of what's going on. It'll save you a lot of time and Google and all this other thing that you're trying to do with looking things up and figuring it out on your own. Save yourself some trouble and just meet with somebody. You go over everything with an attorney. It doesn't mean you have to hire them to handle your divorce case. And I think a related kind of question as well, my wife just said that we can use her attorney and they'll handle everything with the divorce case. Well, that's like having one attorney in a personal injury lawsuit. One side represents the insurance company who doesn't want to pay you whatever amount of money you want. The other side is you trying to get the money for your injuries, pain and suffering, medical bills, whatever it is. You're not going to have one attorney for both sides of that lawsuit, nor would you have one attorney for both sides of a lawsuit in a divorce case, nor would you have one realtor for a buyer and seller on a house. It's impossible. It's inherently a conflict of interest. A lawyer's suggesting they're going to represent both of you. It's not what's happening. Your wife would have a lawyer and you wouldn't. In the scenario where your wife says, let's just use my attorney, you could tell her, well, let's just use my attorney, and you can do that. You can have one lawyer in the divorce case, but then one person doesn't have anybody to discuss things with, get advice from, know what to expect, handle things for the court hearings for them. A divorce case is going to involve a minimum of a couple court hearings. There's not really any way around it. If there's children, there's probably more like a minimum of 3 court hearings in any county in the state of Michigan where I'm at. I'm an attorney. I do divorce, family law is all we do with Adam Law Firm. My name's Brent Boyer. And, I can tell you the counties that we practice in Michigan, every county, it's the same. There's a minimum of 1 or 2 court hearings. And with children, it's more like 2 to 3 court hearings to get a divorce completed. So what goes on at the court hearing, what to expect, how to handle it, how to do all these things isn't really something I think you would fumble through and just do on your own, nor would you want to. I don't know why that would be tempting any more than you would handle your own personal injury lawsuit, or you'd handle your own probate estate, or handle your own lawsuit at district court that you need to. That gets complicated very quickly, and I certainly wouldn't want to be disadvantaged where my wife has an attorney and I don't, and somehow they're telling me that person's gonna do something for me, because they're not. They're just clearly not. So, and I think the second thing of the 10 things you'd want to ask your divorce attorney is, do you need a family law attorney? So do I need somebody that knows divorce work, or am I good with, really any attorney that's licensed to practice law could handle a divorce? They could handle anything. They could handle a bankruptcy, a personal injury case, whatever it is. But is somebody really able to handle all of those things efficiently and in a way that you'd want where it's to your advantage? Well, of course not. Divorce cases are done through family court. There's a separate family court in every county in Michigan, the way they handle things. Once upon a time, it used to be through probate court, where you would handle trusts, estates, wills, and all those sorts of things, guardianships. Now it's a separate court system. So family court is a separate court system, first of all. So if you're hiring some attorney that just does a little bit of everything, they're not going to know family court that well. How could they? With divorce, with family law, the attorneys that work at Adam Law Firm doing divorce only, all we deal with is family court. We know those judges. We don't know the bankruptcy judges in federal court. We don't know the district court criminal defense judges. We just would get advice about that, and we have experts help with. Divorce is very specialized. All types of law have become very specialized in my time doing these things. I've been practicing law about 25 years, and this all started right around the time I started practicing law, where everything just became specialized. So there is a separate court system just for divorces and family law, and you'd want someone who handles just divorces and family law, because it is its own world, and a lawyer that doesn't do a lot of that type of work, they're just going to miss a lot of things. They're not going to know. There's no way they're going to have the level of expertise of somebody who does this all the time. So I think second question would be, do you need a family law attorney? Do you need someone that specializes in divorce work? And is the attorney you're meeting with someone that specializes in the divorce work, or are they handling that here and there and doing sort of everything else? It's a good question, because it can make a difference. I think third question would be, how much is the retainer? And really, discussing what even is a retainer. So the way divorce and family law works in Michigan, you pay a retainer. In other words, you pay some money up front, and there's lots of other types of law and hiring lawyers where this works this way. You pay money up front, and then they do the work based on an hourly rate. That's not the same thing as saying what you pay up front is going to tell you how much it's going to cost as a total, because that's not what a retainer is. A retainer, you sign a fee agreement, you hire them, they get an attorney working on it full time, and then they're your attorney for that lawsuit. But the money you paid up front isn't really related to how much the total is going to be. There's lawyers that'll tell you less up front. There's lawyers that'll tell you as low a number up front as you want. Call them up. People start throwing out numbers right over the phone. They don't know anything about you. They don't even know your case, and somehow they're quoting you a fee. Obviously, that's not going to work. They have no idea what this looks like or what's involved. How could they be quoting you a fee? So retainer is you pay some money up front. The work gets done based on that money. It's used based on an hourly rate towards the work on your divorce and family law matter. And then after the retainer's gone, you pay more money, or it gets done for less than the total retainer. We really don't have a good answer to that, and other divorce lawyers don't have any answer to it either. They don't know how much time your divorce case is going to take without even having met with you. So that's what retainers are, what it looks like. It's a good discussion to have with a divorce attorney when you're meeting with them. How much is the retainer? How does the retainer work? How is it set up? With ours, it's I should say it is refundable. There's a non-refundable part. In other words, we do a minimum that we know it's going to take for the entire divorce if we go through with the divorce. But if you don't go through with the divorce, if you cancel, our retainer is refundable. That's really how they all are. If you look at Michigan law, you can't really do a non-refundable thing on a retainer. You have to show that you did the work equal to the amount that you have charged. So you pay money up front, we use it towards the work. That's a retainer. That's how all divorce lawyers operate, or should be operating. Number 4 on these top 10 things that we think you should be asking a divorce attorney and discussing is, will you have to pay spousal support or alimony? Are you going to have to pay alimony in your divorce case? So that's a good discussion to have at the initial meeting. If the attorney is being truthful, they're probably going to tell you they can't really give you an exact number on alimony, if there is any. But there's a whole analysis to that. Alimony and spousal support, there's 12 different factors why Michigan law is. They look at how long you've been married. They look at your wife's age. If you're the husband in the divorce case, look at wife's age and income or ability to earn income. And they look at all these other factors. There's 12 different factors. They're looking at how much you make and how much she makes. So they're looking at your ability to pay alimony or spousal support, and they're looking at her need for alimony or spousal support. A lot of divorce cases, there is no alimony. There's no spousal support because you haven't been married very long, or your incomes are very similar. Or, the way alimony spousal support works in Michigan, you have to calculate child support first. So if you have minor children and you're paying child support based on the arrangement that you have set up, that could be it. There's only so much money to go around, right? So if you're paying a number in child support that's high enough relative to your income, that could mean there's no alimony or spousal support just based on the fact that you're paying child support already. So certainly a lot that goes into alimony or spousal support. It's a topic you want to cover in the first meeting. Are you in a situation where you're looking at a potential alimony or spousal support claim? Are you going to have to pay that to your wife? And you want to find out more about how that's decided and what that's going to look like for you. And then number 5 on this list of top 10 things that you should ask your divorce attorney is, how does your wife's behavior affect your divorce? So, this comes up a lot, and it's a valid question. Meet with someone and they'll tell us their wife is cheating on them. And, shouldn't that mean that she gets nothing in the divorce? Or she's an alcoholic, or she's abusive, or she's whatever it is, that she's fault. These are all questions and concerns that surround this concept of fault, and whose fault for the divorce, who's causing the divorce, why are you getting divorced? I mean, we meet with people every day that they don't even want to be divorced, but a divorce has already been filed or it's going forward or whatever it might be. So you want to be, aware of all that as you're looking at what is going on here with your wife's behavior, and does it affect what goes on with your divorce case. So, the short answer is what's going on and who's cheating and who's the problem. It doesn't have a big effect on divorce cases, unfortunately. The way Michigan law is, we're a no-fault state, meaning you don't need a reason to get divorced. So then the reasons for the divorce, really, they don't have a big impact on things. They don't carry much weight because you don't need a reason in the first place. You just say, I want a divorce, and someone gets one. You just have to work out all the details. So somebody cheating, somebody doing all these other things, it's not necessarily going to affect things very much. It's like maybe a 5% factor, meaning if you've been married long enough that everything's being split equally, it's still going to get split equally. If you're in a situation where your wife might be able to make a spousal support or alimony claim because she's not working or doesn't make very much money relative to what you make, you could still have to pay alimony or spousal support even if she is cheating, or even if she did cause the divorce. In your opinion, everything's totally because of her, So you want to be aware of that. It's not as simple as saying that because your wife did this or did that and she's at fault, then she's going to get less as far as property settlement, or that you're not going to have to pay alimony or spousal support because she was the problem, whatever it might be. It really is not that simple. I think the easiest way to look at it would be to say that your wife's behavior really does not affect the outcome in the divorce because it's sort of a no-fault kind of arena. There's still things that can affect it. If there's a dispute about custody and parenting time, then her behavior can affect what's going on with child custody and parenting time, because the best interest of the child factors that the court looks at, if the court is deciding what's going on with custody. Child custody can be affected by moral fitness of either one of you, whether somebody's cheating, whether somebody's got alcohol problems, drug problems, whatever other behavioral kind of problems. Those things can affect like a child custody situation, but they're not really going to affect a property settlement situation. In the end, you both have coming whatever you have coming as far as property division, and who's at fault or not at fault, depending on your opinion about it, isn't really going to be a factor. So number 6 is, will you lose half of everything? Will I lose half of everything in my divorce case? So, it's a reasonable question, because you certainly hear about your wife gets half if you get divorced and all that. And that really is true. It's a good starting point. If you've been married for a long enough amount of time, let's say 25-year marriage, your whole life together, and you're getting divorced, you can assume that your wife is going to get half of the property, whatever it is, half the house, half the savings bank accounts, half of the retirement accounts, half of all those things. It's a partnership. You guys are in business together. Your wife could not have worked the entire marriage. She's still going to be entitled to her share of assets and whatever it is you're dividing up when you go to get divorced. Now, there's exceptions, of course. Michigan is what's called a dual property state. We don't just do like common law or 50-50 no matter what. We look at 2 categories, why it's called dual property. We look at 2 categories. There's marital property and there's separate property. So marital property are things that you acquire during the marriage. You buy a house, you put money in a retirement account, you save money, you buy a car, whatever it is. You buy things during the marriage. Whether you use your money or her money, you bought it during the marriage, that's going to mean it's considered marital property, and it's going to mean you each get half of that property when it comes time for a divorce. Now, if there's separate property, like something you owned before you got married that you still own and have kept separate, that could be different. You might be able to protect that. You want to get some advice about exactly what that looks like. Or another example of separate property might be an inheritance. If you inherit some money during the marriage and keep it in a separate account, and now you're getting divorced, potentially you have a claim that that entire inheritance is yours, and you don't have to split that with your spouse in a divorce case. So, I think you want to look at this idea of, will you lose half of everything? So number 7 on this list of questions is, how do I get custody of my children? So this is a good discussion to have with your attorney at the initial meeting. What do I need to do to fight for custody? What do I need to do to position myself for custody? Because I think the right answer is going to be you need to work out a custody and parenting time arrangement between the two of you. It might not be today or next week or next month, but you need to plan on, there's going to have to be some spirit of cooperation. You're the mom and the dad. No one else cares about what happens with this schedule other than the two of you. Now, the courts will decide it if they have to, but they're really like the tiebreaker when you can't reach an agreement is the best way to put it. You each have a 50% say in what's going to go on with custody and a parenting time schedule in a divorce case, and then the court is really the tiebreaker. I think if you're talking to an attorney at an initial meeting and they're gearing you up that you're going to have some sort of custody battle, it's not the right attorney. You don't want somebody that's positioning you and setting expectations that you're going to go in and fight about custody from the get-go. It's not really how it should work. It's not how it's going to go. Not in Michigan, not in most counties where we practice. It's really not the case. The case is more you got to figure out an agreement. And you can get there with the right attorney, you can do it. It doesn't mean your wife gets to tell you how everything's going to be. You both have a say in it. You have a 50-50 say in what's going to happen with custody of your kids. So it's a good discussion to have at the beginning. What's the tone? How are they guiding you on that? And is the attorney telling you about all of that? Number 8, that's a good question to cover at the initial meeting with your divorce attorney, is how long will this take? It's a reasonable question. You're starting on this journey. You want to know what's involved. You want to have a sense of what the cost is going to look like. You want to have a sense of how long it's going to take. How long is this process? What should I expect? It's all about setting reasonable expectations. So, divorce cases in Michigan, there's 2 different waiting periods. If you have no minor children, if you don't have kids or they're grown, there's only a 60-day waiting period. So does that mean your divorce will take 2 months? No, it just means the minimum is 2 months. You're not allowed to get divorced short of 2 months. So that's by state law. You're not getting divorced in less than 60 days, no matter what. So a divorce with no kids, reasonably, we just tell people, well, that's probably a 2 to 6 month process, unless there's really complicated things going on, like somebody owns a large business or there's other things we can't figure out overnight. But in general, it's a 2 to 6 month type of process when you do not have children. When you have minor children, there's a 6 month waiting period. So now you're in that world where the state law says there's a waiting period and you can't get divorced in less than 6 months. The reality is you can get divorced in less than 6 months if there's exceptions and you've got everything completed. So divorce with children, depending on the county, we would tell you you're probably in 4 or 5 months minimum, could take as much as 9 months. So you're either like a 2 to 6 month process, no kids, or 4 to 9 months when there are minor children, just as general rule of thumb, general rule. Good thing to discuss with the attorney at the beginning. First of all, you want to know if they know all this, if they're knowledgeable about this area, and you want to get a sense of what your expectations should be with this process. So you know when you're going to be completed with it, when you're going to be moving out. Do you live together during the process? Do you move out during? Wait till the end? You want to know what the timeline on all this is so you can make decisions going forward with your own life. And then, which leads into number 9 that I would ask a divorce attorney is, should you move out during the divorce or before the divorce, or at what point can you move out? Your wife's telling you to leave, or you just don't want to be there anymore. It's a reasonable question. You need to know, do we need to keep living together? So if you have minor children, you're best off to live together, and you're going to want to plan. You're going to want something in place before you move out. You don't want to just move out with no plan and no discussion, and now you're fighting about who's paying the bills, and your wife's telling you can't come to the house anymore, and she's telling you you can't see the kids, or you can only see them on her terms. You don't want all that nonsense. You want an agreement before someone moves out, if you can do it that way. If there's a way to do this, you want to have an agreement before you move as to what's going on with custody, parenting time, child support, paying the bills. If there's no kids, moving out is really less of an issue. Moving out now is really only worry about what bills do I have to pay now that I've moved out, and do I have to worry that my wife's going to wreck my stuff, or do I have to worry that her boyfriend's coming to the house now that I've moved out? But moving out is a much lesser concern when you do not have children. So that's the best way to put that one. It's a good discussion to have in that first meeting. Is it okay to move out? When can I move out? Can I change the locks? All these sorts of kind of questions. And then number 10 on the questions that we recommend you should ask your attorney in the first meeting is, does it matter who files first? This is a good question to see where this attorney's at with advice and their knowledge on divorce and family law. And you just want to get the answer to the question. Should I be filing first? My wife wants to file. She wants us just to use her attorney, whatever she's telling you. It does make a difference who files first, which would then lead you to believe, well, of course, then that means I can't use her attorney because I need to be filing for divorce before she does. So If you have the opportunity to file first, you would always do it. Every lawsuit, you're better off filing first, whether it's personal injury or divorce or whatever it might be. You would always file first. Filing first means controlling the documents, controlling the narrative as in like what words are in the documents, controlling the timing of things. There can be court orders signed without a hearing that get filed by the person who files first. You then control the timing of when you want the other person to know about it and when they're served. So you'd always want to file first if you can. Now, lots of times your wife's already filed, you come in, that's fine. We respond to the paperwork and we deal with it. But if we have a perfect set, if we're playing a game of chess, we'd rather file first. It's that simple. It doesn't always happen. And, that's okay too. We just respond to things if we can't be the ones to file first. So I hope that helps. Those are our top 10 kind of questions we felt over the years people should be asking divorce attorneys at the initial meeting and get a sense of what's going to go on at that first meeting. Thanks.